Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 64 of the Kiss Army Nation podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Pasquale Veri.
And I'm Claudius Pera. So thank you and welcome to the show, everyone.
So for this panel discussion, we're joined once again by Craig Patton. Hey, Craig.
Hey, guys.
And Patrick de Montigny.
Good.
Hi.
Hey, Pat.
Hey. How's it going?
So, guys, we haven't talked in a while, both online and in real life. What's happening in your respective KISS worlds? Craig, besides a new background?
Not much. As you know, I got sporting a new shirt here, so that's
Look
pretty
at
nice.
that. Looks
Nice one.
Wow.
And
Very cool.
Else. Yeah, not much else. Just keeping it alive, keeping it good.
Good. Patrick?
Not much, except I'm anxiously waiting for my Greatest Kiss vinyl LP, which is supposed to ship this Friday. I'm told. So hopefully I'm going to get that. I ordered the cheaper one.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that, actually. I don't know why. I've always liked the Greatest Hits compilation, so I'm looking forward to the actual vinyl.
I remember Keith LaRue saying before that was released that fans are either going to be really happy or really upset with that release because it was a fortune on eBay because it came out of KISStory and now it's being re-released. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's, how do you feel about it being re-released?
Well, yeah, it's a re-release, but the original one, I believe, is still worth, because of what it is. So I think they did it on purpose to make a different version. So it's not like a total, not a ripoff, but a total copy of the other one. They made it special, so it's not the same thing. So I'm pretty, in my opinion, I think the one from the box set is still going to be very much sought after.
Oh yeah,
maybe not as expensive, but it's still going to be sought after for sure.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of new releases and vinyls, so as we always like to do in our discussion panel episode, so we want to ask you guys an off-the-topic question. So, what are your thoughts on the Donington show from the new Off the Soundboard? Craig, what do you think?
I think it's a definite step in the right direction. I think that the choice of the venue was much more better than the other ones. I do like the set list for sure. King of the Nighttime World is one of my favorite songs, and it's represented well there. It's still, it's in the rough stages of sound quality. For me, it's raw and live, which is what we want, right? Mm-hmm. So, no, I think it's a right step in the right direction. If I hear the next one's coming through the pipeline, it's going to be even better.
Yeah, that's right. Pat?
Yeah, from what I've heard so far, I like it pretty much. I have no knowledge of it, but looks like they didn't patch it up too much. I'm pretty sure what we're getting, what was really happening that night. I like it pretty much. I've listened about half of it, and I'm very happy with it for sure.
What about you, Pascal?
Well, truth be told, I haven't listened to it yet because I just got it today.
Oh, okay.
I ordered from KISS Online. Yes, I still order from KISS Online. I will continue to order from KISS Online. I've never had a problem with KISS Online, so I don't mind waiting. How many of us have gotten our releases and waited a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to listen to it, But for me, it's going to be tonight after the show. But listen, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to love it. Why? Because if I liked Virginia Beach, I'm going to like this. And I know how bad Virginia Beach was in terms of the quality and even, the performance itself. It wasn't great. But I don't see these releases as a typical KISS album release. I see it as part of a time capsule. And that's why I love bootlegs so much. Good or bad, it's a moment in KISStory of a particular show. And whenever there's a mess up or a song that doesn't sound quite right or the quality is not great, for me, it just makes it different. It makes it special. Mm-hmm. And from what I heard from Donington, it's the quality is going to be amazing. I love that there's actually something coming from that's out from the '96 reunion. I think that's fantastic. you know, and I'm looking forward to listening to it. And if you guys want to listen to a good review, Kiss Army Things is going to be doing a review of Donington on their next podcast. So definitely check that out.
Okay.
Have you heard it, Claudia?
I haven't heard it, completely. I got a couple of teasers, of stuff that it's flying around. But, so far I love it. And I'm with Craig on this one. So definitely a right step in the good direction. I love the lineup, and that specific show, I think, as you said, Pask, is a big milestone in the reunion tour, in '96. So definitely, I think it's love it, and I'm more excited, even more, when apparently there's some stuff that is going to be released. We don't know yet if it's going to be 77 or something from the 80s. The new one coming up, but definitely more excited. I was a little bit down with Virginia Beach, but this guy has stepped it up, so I'm quite happy.
Let's get to the topic at hand. And the topic for this episode is, and I quote, essentially, we're going to take and discuss various quotes given from members, past and present, and each of us were given the task of finding our individual quotes. Therefore, each of us are going to introduce the quotes that we came up with, that we found, for the rest of us to discuss. Does that sound good?
Awesome.
Awesome.
I like it.
Okay. So we're going to start with our first quote from Patrick. What'd you come up with?
Yes, I came up with this one called from Peter Criss in the early days of KISS, where he said, "If we don't get rich from this, they're going to have to put me in a padded cell." Now, that really shows their hunger that they had in the early days, which brings us the question: is that hunger still there today? Great.
Yeah. Listen, I think to a certain extent it is, but with different members. I mean, we have Eric and Tommy in there, which I believe bring a different sound. But in those days, for sure, that, as I'd had said, looking for a drummer with flashing, or looking for a guitarist with flashing balls, they were looking for something definitely different that's not out there, the band they wanted to see and they couldn't see, right? But after all these years, is the hunger still there? I think they would be, because they're going on 50 years. I think that the hunger and desire is still there, that they want to put out the shows. They want to feed off that energy. Is the hunger still there to a point where they want to get better creativity-wise, if I can get that word out? I don't know. That area, I think, is still to be discussed. But I think that they're coming up with different ideas of shows and different stages and stuff like that. I think that the hunger is still there to a certain degree, yeah.
So I tend to agree with Craig. Maybe we can define, different types of hunger. Remember, in those guys, those guys were really young. They were full of energy, and they were taking the world, in their hands. They were playing in small venues as if they were playing, Madison Square Garden. But today, I think I like what Craig said. I never thought about that. So coming up with new ideas, different layout for the stage and different effects and all of that, somehow it shows that they always want to do something different. Of course, we're talking about 70 years old guys, and of course they're not going to be running the stage as they were doing at the beginning, but I think the spirit's still there, definitely. Pask, what do you think?
For me, I find it's interesting because this really speaks about a work ethic. You either go into this 100% or you don't do it at all. And it was interesting at the beginning, all four members of the band went into this endeavor 100%. It was do or die. We make it or we don't. And there was no making it. We have to make it. We have no choice. And I loved their determination and their focus on that one goal. And yeah, their hunger was insatiable back in the day, and it was obvious. But I think early on in their career, 4 or 5 years after the inception of the band, I think that hunger started to wane because it quickly became a business. And it became about keeping the success up. It's about making money. It's about the merchandising. It's about being bigger and better all the time, you know? And I think he lost focus on what the band was really about. The music and the passion and the hunger that went with it, you know? And even today, I'm sorry, you can't argue that they have a hunger today. If there was, we'd be seeing albums every couple of years. We don't anymore. They just don't have that drive to make any new music because it's not financially feasible. Forget about the creativity part of it. Forget about the passion about making more Kiss music. It's not financially feasible. That's not a reason not to make an album, you know? A case in point is Paul's Soul Station. He did it because he wanted to, because it's a passion that he has for that music, not because of the money. And the end of the road, you know, the shows are just perfect. They're so perfectly choreographed. There's no drive. There's no hunger there. It's a business model that they follow to the T. And I feel that right now, I dare say, I guess they're going through the motions of getting these shows out of the way so they could finally get to the end of the road.
You got a good point, and I kind of agree with that as well, that what is going on today cannot be compared with the past, especially the early days, because I always say that the early days, like from 73 to 76, KISS was more like an underground kind of band, you know, before they hit it really big. They were like underground, you know, they were that dangerous band. But then after 76, they became super KISS, where it was like just exploded and it became a different beast. So I don't think they've ever been that hungry since the early era of the original lineup. I mean, really early. So, you know, like I said, 73 to 76, basically.
But I think that you know, that can easily apply to any band. Okay, so it's not only to KISS. So you know, when you see you know, the first videos from I don't know, bands like Iron Maiden, Rush, you know, AC/DC, Judas, and now these guys, they're playing in their you know, it's been some of the bands 50 years that they have been on the road, and it becomes a product, as Paz was saying. You know, it becomes a commodity, and you know, basically it's a job for them. And it's impossible for these guys to have the same energy at 70 compared to what they had at, you know, 20 years old. So, but it's a fair point.
Agreed.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a good follow-up to the Peter Criss quote. And this one comes from Paul Stanley. And I quote, "What we try to do in life is modify who we are. It's a shame when it's hard to stay consistent. Is it possible for the band to be remained consistent after all these years?"
That's a tough one, because consistency could mean a lot of things, and they've been consistent in the last, I would say, almost 20 years. I hate to say it with Tommy and Eric. Not that I hate Tommy and Eric. I meant, like, I can't believe it's been that long. They've been consistent in a sense that, you know, there has been no change. They do what they do. They tour. They release 2 albums. So, yeah, I can say they remain consistent in the fact that they don't do much anymore. You know, as far as they only play shows and that's it. No new music, as Pas was saying. So, but before that, consistency, I'm not sure. They released so many albums that were different from one another. To say they were consistent, I don't know. And let alone, you know, like the personal changes that there has been happening as well. So, consistency, double-edged sword as far as I'm concerned.
Claudio?
Yeah, well, it's I think you know, KISS must be one of the less, you know, consistent bands in the world. You know, not only because of the different, you know, changes in lineup, but also through all the different, you know, genres that they went through. So you know, they started, you know, hard rock, then they went a little bit pop, then they tried to get into the kind of heavy metal, glam rock in the 80s, and then got back, you know, with Revenge, trying to do something harder. I don't know, maybe consistent applies to having Paul and Gene. Well, not even Gene, Gene in the 80s wasn't there anymore. So not even that. So to me, consistency doesn't, apply to KISS at all. So this quote that, of course, it sounds great from Paul, but I don't think consistency goes along with KISS at all.
Okay, fair enough. Ask.
So the way I see it, Paul is trying to say that it's really a shame that in life we try to modify who we are when in fact we should try to stay consistent. So I see this as Paul trying to say, trying to modify your life is a negative and being consistent is a positive. I think that's impossible because, for example, when the band says something, it's how they feel at the time, at the moment. People often say they're being hypocritical. No, they're not. That's how they feel at that particular time.
Right.
And that may change in a year from now, right? And a lot of fans also, you hear the fundamentalists who are, KISS is only the original 4 members. What they're saying essentially, I think, is that this is the consistency that I want to see in KISS for the entire 50 years. But what that's also saying is, I don't want the band to evolve. I want the band to remain the same. And how stagnant would the band have been if it didn't evolve or change throughout the years? That's why I love that, with various KISS albums, you have different styles with Unmasked, with The Elder, with the 80s stuff, with the 70s, with Monster and Sonic Boom. Everything is different. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Claudio, this band, you cannot use the word consistent with this band. They are absolutely not. And that's where the charm of this band is, with their inconsistency. I think that's a plus for them.
Okay, so I don't get tomatoes thrown at me for this one, but in my estimation on this one, modifying who we are basically changing your musical directions or your musical aspirations to appease the consensus. We all know Peter likes jazz, Ace likes more rock and roll, Paul was the more with the ballads, and then Gene was the hard stuff, right? So they modified their musical talents or their aspirations for the good of the band. Now, and also for the good of the fans, because to stay consistent, we mean, look, it's a brand, right? So they need to stay consistent. When you're going to go to a KISS show, you're always going to get the same thing. You're always going to get what you want. You're going to get the explosions. You're going to get the songs you like. You're going to get the fireworks. You're going to get all the extra special effects. Consistency for me is you're going to get that every show you get. No matter what genre or what era you're going to do, for me, that's what staying consistent would be, is to always deliver the goods.
So, keeping on the theme of consistency, how difficult can it possibly be to remain consistent, A, dealing with people, and B, dealing with people in the music industry? It's, people change, musical practices change. How is it even possible to remain consistent in the music business, right? So hence this quote from Gene Simmons, and I quote, "Jump on stage with us for encores. The fans will love it." We all know he's talking about Ace, right? Now, is it even reasonable to assume that Peter and Ace will be on stage with KISS for the final show? Is that consistency of coming full circle just a pipe dream? Can we even expect that consistency to happen? Craig?
I would love it personally to happen. I think that would be definitely great closure to a band that was part of my life for most of my life. But we all know the bickering back and forth. You think they're going to be in, and Ace throws out a couple of comments, and you're like, well, no, that definitely it's not going to happen. Now, all of a sudden, Peter and Ace's shows are canceled. So are they rehearsing for a reunion for the end of the road? Who knows, right? But I definitely think that it could happen, but it has to have the stars have to align, and it has to be properly rehearsed and properly choreographed. And you'd have to not, in my estimation, disrespect Eric or Tommy. And
Okay.
not also, this is another one too, not also disrespect, let's say Vinny or Bruce. If you're going to put the other two, all the members of the band for me have to be there, and definitely have to celebrate the celebration.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, Patrick.
I, for one, hope it does happen, but I don't get my hopes too high. I mean, yeah, it would be a nice way to finish it. I think it would be the logical thing to do, but at the same time, other bands were not able to do it. I'm thinking about Black Sabbath. They didn't end it. They didn't do a very last show with Bill Ward, so it's kind of awkward. Genesis, they ended with, a lot of people wish Steve Hackett and Peter Gabriel would have done one last show, but Phil Collins not being able to drum. So, I think the same thing could happen to Kiss. Lots of obstacles could make that thing impossible. But I, for one, do wish it does happen. But I'm wondering how it can happen. Although the recent events, like Peter canceling his appearance and Ace, like Craig said, canceled his European tour. What does that mean? It's kind of strange. It could be just a pure coincidence, but you never know. So hopefully, but it has to be done the right way as well. Definitely. It has to look good and sound good.
Exactly.
Okay, Claudio.
Well, I agree with Craig and Pat. I think it will happen. Not a full show, maybe a couple of songs, but it's funny because each one of us, we have so many different expectations. So if we actually want to celebrate KISStory in one show, well, then we were talking in the past of having a Bruce Kulick's band opening for Kiss. Then, if we need to be respectful for history, so then Vinny has to appear somehow. But we think that that's very unlikely to happen. But coming back to Ace and Peter, yeah, I would love to see the guys playing at least a couple of songs. But at the same time, keep respect for Tommy and Eric, which are a big part of KISStory. These guys, they've been together for 20 years and they've given us a lot, for our, let's say, for fans and music and shows and all of that. But I think something is cooking, but, Kiss will find a way to make it happen. This is a big business, and they know that having at least Peter or Ace in the last 2 or 3 songs, that's going to sell tickets, by its own. So if we know that they're going to be there, that's a sold out. That's guaranteed, and these guys are going to repeat. If they're going to play, Madison Square Garden, you couldn't be surprised that these guys are going to do maybe 3-4 Madison Square Garden if Peter and Ace are there. Yeah, definitely it's going to happen to me. Yeah. Pask, what do you think?
I think for the sake of consistency, it would be cool to come full circle with the founding members of the band and having Peter and Ace there, of course. But again, the reality of show business is that actually going to happen. And personally, I don't like the idea that they're constantly dangling that carrot in front of me or in front of the fans, because it's just creating unrealistic expectations. And it's doomed to fail because it's never going to meet our expectations. If Peter and Ace are not there, what? Is the show going to suck now?
Yeah.
Are the fans are the fans not going to show up? Is it going to be any less special? No, of course not. What I'm afraid of with Peter and Ace being there is the equivalent of the Guinness Book of World Records guy at the Dubai show, who shows up just before the countdown and the whole show was kind of off because of him. It ruined a really special moment. It wasn't necessary to do that. They tried to do too much with that show, and I think near the end, where it was supposed to be really special, it sort of fell apart. It became anticlimactic. And that's what I'm afraid would happen if Peter and Ace were there. They're trying too hard to do something super special. And I said this a million times, just having a final show in and of itself is going to be special because it's going to be the last time that you see the band. And if on the screen you have their KISStory from 73 to 2023, that would be something amazing as well. You know, there's your homage to the rest of the band and the legacy that is KISS. You know, and I can't help think though with Ace and Peter canceling their shows that maybe that means something. I don't know, but the speculation is definitely out there. The conspiracy theories are out there. I don't know what that means, but for me, I'm thinking the last show will be without Peter and Ace. I'm not gonna have any expectations. If they're there, I'll be excited. If they're not, so what?
Yeah, but just let me give my 2 cents here, Pascal. Don't you think that part of all this, I don't know if I should call it drama, but it's because of us, because of the fans, because we keep asking. Everybody keeps asking about Ace and Peter, and that forces Gene and Paul to kind of consider, even if it does make sense, business-wise or whatever, but it's all the time that the fans bringing the topic on the table. What about Ace and Peter? Ace and Peter. So the same thing happens with the reunion tour. If you remember, the couple of years before the reunion tour in '94, when they released "Kiss My Ass," that's when the whole thing started. Okay, so people talking about the reunion in every interview and blah blah blah. So again, what Kiss has created is so big that you cannot escape, considering having Peter and Ace in the final show. I agree with you. It's going to be really special, even having, Tommy and Eric, the current lineup, closing up, the KISStory. But I guess you're going to agree with me that if Peter and Ace are there, that's going to be a plus. That's going to be a bonus.
So, Claudia, to respond to what you're saying, I think you're right. It is coming from the fans. And I think it's like listening to the news. If we listen to the news too much, we're going to get upset, and we're going to be, our points of view are going to change based on what we're listening to,
Mm-hmm.
So maybe KISS should turn off the news, the KISS fans, and just do what's feasible financially or what's plausible for them, and they're I can see with the releases of the soundboard of the remasters of the vinyl and stuff, that they are listening to fans. What's happening with KISS Online, with the change of management there of company, they are listening to the fans. Yes, but that's customer service. But in terms of where the band is going to go, that's not up to us. I think it's up to them. It's their legacy as much as it is ours. And whatever they do, I think is going to be amazing. And if it ends with just a band, it's more power to them.
Yeah.
I tend to think in the KISS camp too that some of these rumors or slanders or whatever they call them, they're out there to cause controversies, to say to the fans, hey, look, they're bickering again, and then it's like, oh no, they patched up, they all made up, and now they're all going to show up at New York for the final shows, and they've kissed and made up, and it's going to be they build their own drama, right? So I don't know. Sometimes is that happened? Has it happened in the past, right? So is it choreographed? Who knows? Maybe it is. Listen, I would love that to end that way, but I'm with you guys. If it doesn't, I'm still fine with it too. But it's like Claudio said, it's the bonus disc,
Yeah, but also, Claudia, what you said, if Ace and Peter are there, it's going to sell out. I think even without Peter and Ace, it's going to sell out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. So speaking of consistency, and we touched on Tommy and Eric. So having Tommy and Eric in Spaceman and Catman makeup has always been a polarizing topic with KISS fans. But I think all of the fans would agree that Tommy and Eric brought consistency to the band, as we discussed later, before. So after the band reaches, the end of the road, how do you feel about this? And I quote, "After KISS, I'm not planning on being in a band anymore. Honestly, I wasn't planning on being in a band anymore back in the mid-90s. This is coming from Tommy. So, Craig, what do you think?
Well, we all know about the interview with Tommy saying that he doesn't want to be in a band afterwards, never wanted to be. He was just kind of like thrown in as a replacement, and he got the gig, right? I think that his playing days are over. I think he's going to go back to managing some kind of other Kiss activities, be Kissology 4 or that infamous Kissology 4, right? Or maybe some other kinds of projects down the road with, he did that for Kiss before, right? With Eric, I think that he's going to go back for a drummer for hire. I think he's going to go back for, maybe Alice Cooper, maybe some other bands that need, but I think that once they come out of Kiss, they can do whatever they want. But I just think that definitely for them, they don't need to be in a band. I think they're financially sound. I think that unless they want to continue with the creativity and their creating of music, that's their if that's their ticket, then fine with me. But I think that's what's going to happen in the future.
Patrick, what do you think?
Yeah, I think as Craig was saying, before he joined Kiss, Tommy was like he had given up pretty much. I think he had formed another band after Black and Blue, but that period, like between 95 and 2000, it was a hard time for those kinds of bands anyway. So probably doesn't want to go over and start over with new people, and you never know how it's going to be. Like you get at a stage where you're like, I don't want to deal with that. When you're young, it's okay. I think he's going to work on some other projects and maybe like the one-off gig with Black and Blue once in a while. I think that'll make him happy. And I think he's going to go this way. I can imagine him doing that. As far as Tommy, not Tommy, but Eric goes, I think, he's probably could rejoin Alice Cooper. Why not? He's been with Alice Cooper quite a few times. He could do that. I think his talent, I'm not afraid for his, what's after Kiss for Eric, because his talent is somebody's going to knock on his door.
Yeah, sure. He will still be involved with Soul Station, if Paul, continues with that, definitely. Yeah.
So not too concerned.
That's right. Pask?
I think the spirit of that quote and your question is, what's going to happen after Kiss gets to the end of the road? Will the fandom continue? Will the legacy of Kiss continue somehow? And yes, I think it will. I think Kiss as a touring entity will be over, but I think Kiss as an empire will definitely continue. In terms of Tommy, I think Tommy will continue to do a lot of the behind the scenes work on a lot of various Kiss projects. I could definitely see him doing that. It's his forte, man. He was amazing at that, and hopefully he will continue to do that after the band calls it quits. And I agree with Craig. Eric will definitely go on as a gun for hire and play different bands. I could see Gene doing his solo stuff, and Paul doing his Soul Station stuff. And I think that merchandising will not stop. Conventions and expos will not stop. And I think there's still going to be plenty to enjoy as Kiss fans after they call it quits. Buddy, what do you think?
Well, I think I like this quote from Tommy, and I think it's really honest. He's a very smart guy. He's been with the band, in different roles. And then when he was given the chance to be part of the band, I'm playing the Spaceman. He knew that it was a hot thing, right? So he was filling up, the shoes of Ace, and I think he's grateful of what he's doing, of all the time that he's been in the band, playing for huge amount of people, being recognized everywhere. So that's why I think he doesn't need to keep going, making music. He tried in the past, it didn't go that great with the Black and Blue. But then, he hit the jackpot, with being in Kiss. And for him, that's more than enough. As Craig was saying, they're wealthy, they're sound money-wise. He's still going to be involved with a lot of material, but he doesn't need to be in a band. He's another kind of guy. So he gets along really well with Paul and Gene. And once, the band will not tour anymore, well, he might still be involved, but he doesn't need to be in a band. He doesn't need to play guitar. Not anymore.
After Kiss reaches the end of the road, Kiss fans will back very fondly on the band. Now, in 1994, in the Kiss My Ass video, I remember a quote that Gene said that really struck. He said, "The more we look into our past, the more this band knows where it's going in the future." Now, we all remember how the early 90s for Kiss was kind of rough, as for many bands of that specific genre. Did you think Kiss was going to end on a high at that time? Craig?
Was the band going to end on a career on a high? Now, listen, I think Kiss's longevity, I think, was built on being able to adapt to certain situations and certain eras, right? Whether we like them or not, that's another story, but they did what they had to do to stay popular, to stay employed, to stay together. So are they going to stay on a career on a high? I think they will. And especially like we said in the previous question, if we get some of the former members back, I think it's going to be an amazing end to an outstanding career and a lifestyle for us, right? Kiss friends and that will still go on even though the band's not around. And I think they created more than just a career. They created a community, and definitely I think that's going to be career on a high.
How about you, Claudio?
I agree. I fully agree with Craig. Speaking of the lack of consistency that we were discussing before, but even now when they're going to wrap it up, they're basically having a closure in their own terms. So according to their rules, okay, so that they're doing what they want. They're finishing up, Paul and Gene the way they want it, and if we have a bonus with having a great final show or a couple, that's going to be a plus. But I think they are wrapping it up, being honest with the way it started. It's hard to have the four same guys, as Gene always says, running the same marathon. There's going to be changes, and there were many changes in the lineup for Kiss. But at the end of the day, as Paz was saying before, the work ethic and the concept of Kiss going against everything is still there. So I think they're gonna be wrapping it up on a high, definitely.
Okay, so I said it before. After 50 years, Kiss is still able to produce one of the best shows in their career. And, the end of the road shows for me were just incredible performances. And, there's a lot of controversy about the alleged, lip syncing from Paul. I remember seeing Kiss back a while ago at Niagara Falls, New York, and he sounded awful. The band sounded awful. And for the first time seeing the band live, I actually want to leave the show because I just couldn't stand listening to my idols up there sounded the way they sounded, And, if he has backing tracks, if he's lip syncing, whatever, I don't care. It's all part of the show. It's a fantasy. And when we go see a Kiss show, we're going to see the fantasy. And it's incredible, again, that after 50 years, that fantasy continues. And after 50 years, they can still produce an amazing show. And I'll say it again, no matter what happens at the end, Peter, Ace, with or without, it's still going to be an incredible show. No matter what happens, they are going to end it at a high.
I think it's going to be harder on us, and it's going to be harder on them.
Yeah, probably.
Because they're walking away with full wallets, and we're walking away with empty wallets.
Yeah.
But
point.
Yeah,
for
Pat,
sure.
what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think back in '94 with that particular quote, I think they knew that they had to get back to that to regain the former glory. So I think, it was a very good business move, but also I think it was a good way for them to regain their notoriety. And, ever since then, they've been uh, pretty consistent in that they're still a big deal. Whereas in the '80s, people were like, are they still together? So definitely, I think they're going to be able to end this on an absolute high. Imagine if they would have ended after the Lick It Up tour.
Mm-hmm.
You see my point? It's like it would have been just awful. So no, I think it's better for them to end the way they're going to end now. I think, despite all the controversies about what's really live and what isn't, they're still going to be able to leave on a high for sure, because they fill out everywhere. They sell, the shows are doing extremely well. They are still in the news. So yeah, they're going to end on the high for sure.
And let me ask you something, guys. This is kind of it's not off the topic, but maybe another additional question. But could you have liked KISS to end their career after the reunion tour?
I would say yeah, because for me it would be like closure when Peter and Ace came back, but I would be disappointed if it was a no, because I would still want the band in my life.
Okay.
As for myself, I think what they could have done, as I've said, after the reunion, and especially when it went sour, they could have done something similar to Black Sabbath, where they got back with Bruce and Eric, but don't call themselves KISS. They would call themselves Revenge. Just like Black Sabbath did with Dio, they call themselves Heaven and Hell. Now, we know it's the same band, but they tried not to play too much with the name. I always said they could say KISS as KISS with Ace and Peter. Now, if they go back to Bruce and Eric, they call it Revenge, and they play more stuff from that era. Could have been an interesting concept. So,
okay. You, Pascal, what do you think?
I honestly believed that we're going to call it quits back at the farewell tour, and I was prepared for them to call it quits. I remember, Patrick, it was one of your conventions with Bill O'Coin, and I mentioned this before the previous podcast. Bill was saying that KISS is going to be calling it quits soon, after the reunion. And I remember being so depressed after that discussion. And ever since that discussion, I was prepared for the band to call it quits. And I think at any time during the reunion tour, if the band called it quits, I would have been prepared for it, ready for it, and I would have accepted it. And I remember when the band came back with Eric in the makeup, and I thought, oh my God, what's going on here? I hated him in the makeup. He just, and it wasn't an issue of he's wearing the Catman makeup. He didn't look good in the Catman makeup. I thought, well, okay, no, they should quit while they're ahead, And then when they had the symphony, and you saw Tommy's look in the Ace, I go, wow, he looks really good. Okay, this makes sense to me now, because the look is there. So at that point, now it's like, okay, now I don't want it to end anymore. So there was at a point where no matter where they ended, I wouldn't have been prepared. But to answer your question, at the reunion, yes, I would have been more than ready and prepared, and accept the fact that they're calling it quits.
Okay, great.
And how about you?
Yeah, same thing. I could have liked, for the guys to wrap it up, even before Psycho. But when Psycho Circus was announced and the new record, I was so excited. But then after the fact, when we knew that they were not playing together, blah blah blah, so all the drama, that kind of was a down to me. But but again, it's a double sword thing, because we could have missed, the last, 20 something years of great stuff that we had, big shows and good records, and even, Tommy and Eric talking about consistency. You cannot deny that these guys, they really sound really good together on stage. You know, it's really tight, and even they sound even better than some of the shows that we've seen in the reunion tour. So, you know, that's again, that's a little bit of a gray response, but that's how I feel.
All right. So talking about looking back, Kiss was never afraid of doing things differently. We all know that. Or were they? Talking about Destroyer and Bob Ezrin, Gene said, and I quote, "In fact, we were scared some of the things sounded too different. But the album took off, and today it's one of our best records." Was doing it different natural for the band? Or just them trying to stay on top of like what's happening in the 80s remain relevant?
Yes, it was hard for them to do this tour because, as we all know, Bob Ezrin didn't get along that well with Ace and Peter, and it was a struggle for them. But the positive thing about it is that it became one of their biggest albums. They still play the big standards from that record, so it wasn't natural, but they did the right thing by going a little out of their comfort zone with that record. Absolutely, for sure. And then after that, it probably gave them the initiative to say, well, we can try our hand at something a little different. Let's not release the same album over and over again. So in that aspect, it was good. So it was good for them to always try to say, let's force ourselves to do something a little different, for sure.
Claudio?
Well, you know, and knowing Gene and Paul, and you know what they have in mind, you know, Kiss is a machine, and the fact that they kept this machine running for 50 years, it means that they were able to adapt their music, their different styles, to remain, you know, relevant. So I think they did it. They started doing that with Destroyer, definitely. And then they kept going. They did it with Dynasty, with Unmasked, then with Creatures, you name it. So then Lick It Up, you know, taking off the makeup and blah blah blah. So it's part of the nature of the band. To me, that's what kept Kiss alive for so many years, and I'm happy that they did that. You know, it's not like you cannot put Kiss in the same, let's say, category as AC/DC. So AC/DC, you know, like it or not, even if it's with Bon Scott or Brian Johnson, you know, basically I couldn't say they sound the same, but it's always the same style. It doesn't happen with Kiss, and this is what makes Kiss so special, and I love it.
Good. Pask?
I think the question was, is Kiss afraid or not afraid of doing things differently? And in my opinion, I think, yeah, Kiss are afraid of doing things differently, because if they do things too differently, it's not going to make money. And their goal basically is to make money. They follow a business model. And I think in the early 70s, when the band first started, oh yeah, they took one chance after the next, after the next, after the next, because that's what was necessary to make it. And that goes back to the very first quote of this episode. But after they made it, like Claudio said, they tried to remain relevant, and they did everything they could to remain relevant. No harm in that. But I don't see that as them trying to take a chance and let's do something new and progressive and different. No, I'll give you another quote, and I paraphrase. Gene says that we are not pioneers. We do what other people do, but we do it bigger. And I think that's what defines Kiss. That's what defines Kiss. They basically see what's out there, what the trends are, and let's just make it better. And I think that was the band's business model from the mid 70s till today.
Yeah, I kind of agree with all of you guys, actually. But my take on that was, I think after Alive, which was one of their biggest successes up until Destroy, I think they definitely went out and they were looking for something different to do. Now, Ezrin, being a totalitarian there, telling them what to do, was trial and error, right? So Destroyer was definitely a win, whereas The Elder was an error, right? But then again, that album has found more light recently because it's seen in a different light. We won't go there. But are they afraid? They did. I don't think they are afraid of doing things differently because they, as Claudio was saying, no, the Destroyer was different, Dynasty was different, Elder was different. They said they experimented and they threw darts at the wall and see what stuck. And if Elder was a huge success, well, I think they would have continued doing concept albums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if Destroyer, like with Destroyer with Ezra, like this guy made Alice Cooper's career with Welcome to My Nightmare. He made some other albums with some other bands. So for them, they were definitely looking for a different genre, a different way of exploiting the band. And with that, brought, I think, out of their comfort zone to different personas. I mean, a lot of those songs on those albums are based on their personas. God of Thunder,
Yep.
Shout It Out Loud, Detroit Rock City, and Do You Love Me is a Paul song. Those have been in the set list for ages, and that mostly that whole album is on the set list, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get tired of hearing it because it's just, I think, a new generation of music that was created, because it wasn't the original, it wasn't the Hotter Than Hell or Kiss album, the first Kiss one. It wasn't in the same sound. It was different. And it was new and fresh and for me, it was like, wow, that's where I got really hooked on them. So on that area, I don't think they're afraid of doing it, but I think they're afraid of failing.
Mm.
That's their biggest downfall. And they had to have the right person to push them in the right direction. Whether it be a Bob Ezrin, whether it be Gene or Paul, or whether it be Bill Aucoin, whoever was,
Mm-hmm.
promoting them at the time, they had to be with the right people at the right time.
Okay, so this next quote actually comes from a former guest of the show, Eric Mehta, and it comes from Paul Stanley, and I quote, "Embarrassed by cold, clueless statements regarding Prince's death. Without all the facts, better to say nothing." Should members of the band, especially Gene Simmons, be more careful about what they say, because, what they say can hurt the band. Craig?
Yeah, that's faux pas for them, because I've seen many times Gene shoot off his mouth and not think before he spoke. Recently, there was something too, and I can't remember what it was, and even Paul said in an interview, like, really? Like, wow. And I think that they just, if they don't have something good to say, just don't say it, because it damages their image and it damages their career, because it's going to piss off somebody.
Yeah.
And it's going to be taken in the wrong context and la la la. Okay, they're all up for the U.S., for the Warriors and for the Army people, justifiably so. But then they got those other people who don't believe in war and that stuff. So it's like, I mean, that's not as bad as saying this Prince thing, or I can't remember what the other one was that came out recently. But yeah, they just got to learn to zip it if they don't agree with something, and or say something just totally no comment.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Patrick?
Yeah, they definitely, being in the position that they are, yes, they have to be careful what they say, because it can, it can make enemies. Like a recent one that I think happened last year was Gene said something about David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
He didn't say that, but that's what it meant, like he's a has-been or something like that. First of all, it's unnecessary. Even if you feel what you say is true, you don't say it. You're not one of those fans on some sites that can say anything like anonymously. It's going to be perceived as Gene Simmons saying something, or Paul, or whoever. They have to be careful, because it could have really bad consequences. The no comment is very appropriate most of the time.
Yeah.
Claudia?
Well, this is a good one. In the case of Gene, which is most likely what happens, he's controversial. He's always been like that. Okay, since the very beginning, even when he was in the 70s with the makeup, he was the one speaking up and saying things that, of course, at that time there was no internet. Opinions and statements were not flying like as fast as they're doing today. So now everything has different, repercussion everywhere. I really don't mind, him saying what he says. What hurts me the most is when they attack each other. When they attack Ace or Peter, even between Paul and Gene, that to me hurts the band more than Gene saying something about Prince or saying something about, some other stuff. If they want to go into politics or give their opinion, they have the right to do it. We live in a free world. I don't think it hurts the band because, for Gene, if we talk Kiss or if we say something about Gene Simmons, it's good publicity. And, he's always been like that. But again, just to wrap it up, I don't like when Paul or Gene, even Ace or Peter, they attack each other. That to me, that those low blows, I hate them because they should respect themselves, more than what they do. But maybe there's some bad blood, behind, but they should be more careful in that aspect.
I understand that the band should be held to a higher standard because they're celebrities, they are role models to younger people, and people might take what they say at face value. I get all that. But then again, they're also human beings, and they're entitled to an opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't care what their opinion is about, be it politics or whatever. Yeah, they're entitled to it. But there's a difference between stating an opinion and attacking somebody. Yeah. When you attack somebody, it's not an opinion. I think Craig's an idiot. But that's my opinion. No. I just attacked Craig. That's not an opinion. That's an attack. So yes, when any members of the band attack each other or somebody else in the industry, no, that definitely hurts the band and it hurts them. Paul has often made comments on Twitter that people were offended by, but Paul is just giving an opinion. This is how he feels. And people get offended. Well, I'm sorry. No matter what you say, people are going to get offended. But it doesn't mean that Paul should be quiet and not speak his mind. He has that right like everybody else. But Gene doesn't do it for some ethical reason. He does it, Claudia, like you said, because he wants that publicity. He wants the attention on him. Bad publicity is good publicity for Gene. And oftentimes Gene may say something not because he actually means it, but because it's shock value.
That's right.
And I don't agree. And forget about attacking others, like for the David Lee Roth example. I definitely don't agree with that. And I think also, the controversy with Paul and the lip syncing or the backing tracks, that's Gene's fault. Because Gene back in the day was basically saying, bands should have lip synced. You should be real and true to the fans. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I understand that's what he meant at the time. Things change, people evolve. I get all that. But understand that when you say something and you attack somebody in any way, shape, or form, it's going to bite you in the butt eventually. And that's what often happens with Gene. And unfortunately, that hurts the rest of the band. And Paul is, I think, very cognizant of that because whatever Gene says is also a reflection on him.
So, guys, wrapping up the show, and I think it's only appropriate we ended with final words going to Paul. And I quote, "He's my brother. His family is my family. I think of Shannon, his wife, as my sister-in-law. We've never been closer than we are now. We've come so far and done so many great things for each other, it could be ungrateful if we were anything else. We are there to cheer each other on, and text each other. So we're more than good." This is our dear Paul talking about Gene. So thoughts, Craig? What do you think?
This question for me is it's difficult because I think that now that and this comes out of that show that was on where they're sitting on the couch and they're being basically very humble to each other.
Yeah, A&E, right?
That's it, A&E, yeah. And but there's been times when they didn't see eye to eye in the 80s, 90s, sometimes. Mm-hmm. I think it's always been the Gene and Paul against the Ace and Peter show. I remember the Tomorrow interview, which I still watch from time to time to get some good laughs there when they were out of control and Gene and Paul were basically crawling out of their suits. That it seemed like a divided camp, right? But I think that I think that without those two guys keeping KISS in a straight line and keeping to the plan and keeping to the action plan, they wouldn't be here today. And I think it's those that brotherly love they have for each other. And he even said it when they first saw each other, they hated each other. You know, he thought that he was
Yeah.
egotistical, and the other guy said, "Well, now I know someone else who could write songs
Yeah.
besides Lennon and McCartney."
Yeah.
So, you know, it's that love-hate relationship, and I think that's what Kiss is all about, and how they got through the tough times, and they stuck together. Yeah.
Pat?
Yeah, I compare them to, let's say, Mick and Keith, or not so much John and Paul from the Beatles, but you also have Aerosmith, Steven Tyler, and
Joe Perry.
Joe Perry.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. You know, they have that same thing, Gene and Paul. And yeah, they're like everything in life. They've had their ups and downs. It's good to know that they're ending it on a better terms, because yeah, they've been like through rough times, especially during the Kiss My Ass era. You could tell that they weren't too fond of each other at that time, but it happens. So now that they've, they realize what they've accomplished together, I think that helps as well.
Pasc?
That's an interesting quote, because I'm kind of feeling melancholy after you said it, and I'll tell you why. I'm at the end of my school year right now, and I just feel that there's weight off my shoulders. There's stress off my shoulders. The school year is done. I'm looking forward to my break, And then you look back at the year that I had with the staff and with the kids, and we had our ups and downs. We had our fights. We had our stressful moments, and it wasn't always easy, but there were a lot of great moments as well. But now at the end, the rapport that we have with the kids, with the staff, we're happy that it's over, that we're moving on to new things, that we're taking a well-deserved break. We're talking about the vacations that we're going to be taking, the things that we're going to be doing, and it makes everybody feel so good about each other. So when I saw the 60-minute interview with Paul and Gene, and compare that with that quote, it's really basically saying we're at the end of the school year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're looking back and going, we've had some hard times now, but no matter what, you are my brother. You will always be my brother. You will always be family. And I think it is fantastic that after the turmoil that was the career that is Kiss, that it's ending on a positive note, and that they could, at least for Paul and Gene, that they could reflect and see something so positive, and that it actually made their connection stronger. And how cool would it have been if that could have been the case with Peter and Ace as well?
Well, I'm with you guys. I think we're all on the same wavelength here. It's with age, there's many things that come, and you can tell that these guys now, not only they are wrapping up the band, but they are in their 70s. They all have families, and they look at life in a different way, and they value more what they have. Okay, regardless of how hard they worked, to bring Kiss where Kiss is today, but it goes more with the human beings. And when regardless of what they say, because these guys, they have a script for everything. Okay, Paul and Gene, they know what to say, when to say that. But you can tell by watching the A&E documentary or the 60 Minutes that has just been released. You can tell that it's honest. These guys, they love each other. Sometimes I have the feeling that Gene loves Paul more than the opposite, because I haven't seen Gene attack Paul ever in KISStory, and it was not the same with Paul. But look, I think it comes full circle, and I'm happy that these guys are still together, and they gave us Kiss, and they're keeping the flame alive. But again, to me, speaking of Ace and Peter, more than seeing these guys in a final show, I would love to see them, the four of them sitting on a couch, saying things, kind of having that the kind of documentary. That to me, that would be the cherry on the pie. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We often see in different podcasts, KISS podcasts out there, they basically have topics and they discuss their topics. And I guess before going on air and coming up with this particular topic of, and I quote, it was a way of looking at different topics. But it's interesting that that's not the direction this podcast went. It was really a trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
And Claudio, your final quote at the end really brought everything together. We talked about the ups and downs of the band, and it ended on such a positive note, which is something that we take pride in this podcast. But I think it's also something that really defines the band, and as sad as it's going to be when the band hits the end of the road, I don't think it's going to be the end. I think, like Patrick said, it's going to continue in one form or another.
Yeah.
And we are going to continue to enjoy KISS in one way or another. I'm very confident in that.
And if you take as an example, friendship and relationships that have been created, thanks to KISS, that's going to stay forever.
Yeah.
That's going to stay forever.
Absolutely. And that's thanks to the band,
Yeah.
That's it.
Patrick, any closing remarks?
Well, another great discussion. I love it. And hopefully the next few months for KISS are going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to see what's coming, as far as new products coming, what type of shows we're going to get and all that. So I'm really looking forward to the next few months. I think they're going to be interesting.
Craig?
I always enjoy the different points of view and how we seem to gel with what I don't say, Patrick will say, what you don't say, Claudio will say, and you're sitting there, you're like, man, I was thinking that too,
Yeah.
And it's really good how we all have the same wavelength. But much like Pat was saying, it's like, I can't wait for this Creatures box set to come out. I can't wait for Kissology 4, which I'm waiting for until I die. I don't know, but because there's so much out there that they haven't put out. But anyway, enjoyable episode again. Thanks, guys.
Claudia?
Oh, it's been great, man. It's always a pleasure. And this is getting better and better every time we do this. I love the topic. That was a tough one because instead of talking about something really specific, here it's different perspectives, of statements and opinions of the band members. And it's great. So I loved it. I can't wait for the next one. And as Pat and Greg were saying, well, the future looks bright, in terms of releases and all the stuff. So I can't wait. So we'll see. We'll see what the KISS camp brings to us.
So on behalf of Claudio and myself, Craig, Pat, once again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
And looking forward to the next one. So to the KISS Army, if you want to get involved with the KISS Army Nation podcast, send us your comments, questions, or ideas to talktome@kissarmynation.com. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, never stop rocking. Take care, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe on YouTube, or follow us on Spotify, Podomatic, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to make yourself heard. Leave us a comment on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. See you all soon, KISS Army.